I'd like to echo a lot of the same sentiments that Rob touched on. The Bowl Committee, Alamo Bowl Committee has been very warm, and we've really enjoyed ourselves here. Great events. The setup for us to practice it at UTSA has been awesome. And then our people, there's a lot of organization that goes into spending a week away. Reggie, Ty, and Tyler, and that group did a wonderful job. So when we show up, we get on the bus and do our business, and then get back on the bus and come back. Everything's been organized. The food's been great. People have been warm and friendly, and so our preparation week for the bowl game has been terrific. So as we get approach game day, obviously we're finalizing our preparation as coaches and players, but we're getting ready to play an outstanding football team. I think we had a event the other night, and I think we as coaches really have an appreciation for the other team because it was said a bunch of times how the two teams playing try to do things the right way, and that's what you see when you watch them on tape. Take your questions.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
When your contacts in the NFL call you and ask you about Shurmur Sanders, what would you tell them?
Well, I've already told all 32 teams multiple times probably what I would tell you, but most players that make it in the NFL obviously have great skill and ability, which Shurmur have performed at a high level, which he does. Has a true love for the game, which he has, and then he's going to be an outstanding teammate. And really, those are the four cornerstones of what makes a great pro. You got to have talent. You got to perform. You got to love the game. And that's where a lot of times, guys fall short. They don't love the game. And then you got to it's the greatest team sport in the world. So you have to have an appreciation for being a good teammate, whether you're a leader, a follower, or whatever. And so I've been able to just talk about, I don't think we realize how good Shurmur is, and we won't until he's gone. And I just am really, really looking forward to him finishing this thing out the right way, and then watching him play at the next level and just really killing it. I think it's going to be fun for me.
Presumably, whoever takes Shurmur would also, in theory, have a chance to maybe make some moves, acquire a second or third pick, and target Travis. I know it sounds maybe like a little bit of fantasy football, but with the connection that they have and your experience being in the NFL, is that something that should be investigated based upon just the dynamic of the relationship that these two have?
They can pull that off. Good for them. All right, that's GM wizardry if you can pull that off. No, I have a huge respect for both players. I've told all the pro scouts, if you need a quarterback, take Shurmur, and if you don't take him, you're taking the second best guy, in my opinion. And if you don't need a quarterback, and there's some teams that don't need a quarterback, you should take Travis. And to me, it's a very simple discussion. When I think of these two players, these are guys that have helped change the course of history for Colorado, Buffalo football, along with Coach Prime. And I just have a huge respect for them, and I think they're going to just absolutely dominate the next level.
How rare is their chemistry for a wide receiver quarterback combo? Because from my perspective, I haven't seen two guys in college that have had that much say in an offense, or at least be listened to by somebody of your stature with your experience. What has it been like working with those two guys?
Yeah, it's been awesome because we go in thinking it's going to look one way, and then the defenses always play us a little bit differently because of our skill and ability. And so when we get out there, we get a little feel for what's going on, and then there's a lot of conversation that goes on between Shurmur and Travis. How's he playing you? Let's throw this type of route. And so it's a little free flow, which has been just truly, inspiring for me to be able to do that. And it's going to be, it's going to be different next year. We're going to have to climb this mountain a little different way because these guys have been just, and their chemistry, I guess your question was regarding chemistry. When a receiver and a wide receiver connect, there's a lot of time and effort that's gone into getting that right. And they're able to do it on Saturday, and that's what makes them great.
Hey, Coach, Merry Christmas to you and the fan. Speaking of Shurmur, obviously with Juju kind of on campus or here, taking part of practices, how
Sure.
valuable and impactful is it for him to kind of be in the same unit with Shador, taking practice, with Shador, just be around him for this time?
Yeah, I think it's very meaningful. I mean, Juju's got a bright future. He was just playing in a high school championship game here a few days ago. But to be around, quarterbacks are always looking for perspective. They're always trying to learn from other quarterbacks, how you think about things, how you see this, and so anytime Juju can spend with Shador is time well spent. And I kind of like this. Rob talked about the defensive players, but this is kind of like an orientation. And I love this bowl prep. We've had a bunch of practices, and for some of the young men that won't be here, this is the end of their season. But and I've been grinding on them now, for the guys that are going to be here next year, in my opinion, it's the beginning of their next season. And so for Shador, as he's going out, any wisdom he can impart on Juju and also Caden is important, and they should listen because he's a terrific player.
Coach, when thinking about facing a talented team in BYU,
Correct.
looking at the film you've seen this past week, what is it that stands out to say, okay, we need to be ready for that, or that excites us, we're excited about facing that match?
Yeah, I think when you look at, and again, this is my first real role going through the roll call of teams that we're playing and watching them play on defense. And I've watched BYU play quite a bit. We've had a lot of crossover time watching them on tape, but they play defense the right way. They first starts, they're very physical up front, which you have to be in this game. Doesn't matter what level you're playing, high school, college, or pro. Very physical up front, very fundamental in the back, and they have answers. So they might bring them all, they may drop them all out, and then they do everything in between. So we got to be sharp with how we run it and how we throw it. And when we're in a position to make plays, we got to make them. So we can't have any misfires. We got to block our guys. We have to be physical to try to match how physical they are, and we got to play good football. I mean, it comes down to that every week. But this is an opponent that I got a great deal of respect for. I know not a lot, but some of their coaches. I've coached BYU players in the past. Chad Lewis was my tight end at the Philadelphia Eagles. So I look forward to seeing him on game day. So these guys love the game. They love who they are, what they believe in, and it's going to be a great test.
I'm just curious if getting a chance to work alongside Rob this season, just kind of what you've learned from him, what's kind of impressed him about you, and if there was ever somebody that kind of mentioned him to you from your NFL circles about what you might get to expect from working with him, and like I said, just kind of what it's been like working alongside him.
No, it's been awesome because we've got a lot of the same experience. We're tied to Mike Zimmer. We're all tied together in a lot of ways. I work for Mike, obviously, at the Vikings. And hopefully he'll look better than I do, but I'm kind of Rob 20 years down the road, and so we've had fun conversations about that, and our perspective on things, it's different, right? When you're in the NFL, it's different. So when we come back to college, it's different. But some of the things that we learned about directing a staff, working with players, taking advantage of matchups. We talk about that quite a bit in the NFL. Those are all things that you learn. But then on the flip side, as NFL guys, you've seen a lot of NFL guys go to college for a stretch and then go back to the NFL and have great success, like Todd Monken, right? Cliff Kingsbury, right? Liam Cohen. So there's this great interaction of things that helps us in some ways gain perspective and keep moving in this profession. And but this guy's going to be a head coach, if not this year, the next. And so to be one of his coworkers and his friends, it's been good. It's been a great year.
Hey, Coach. Last time we talked to you was the day before Caden Salter he was coming here, so you haven't had a chance to talk to him.
Yeah.
About him, but what's your impressions of him and just that quarterback battle with Juju and him and obviously right now Ryan Staub is here as well.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. As we mentioned, when you lose somebody like Shurmur, you need about 4 or 5 guys to replace him, But we're really thrilled. Obviously Juju has a bright future, and he's going to be battling his butt off to be our guy next year. We brought in Caden Salter, who is an experienced young man, got 1 year left. Really excited for him. He's roughly a 3,000-yard passer and a 1,000-yard rusher, and he's played a lot of really, really good football. And so he's on campus as well. He was out there today doing his thing, and so getting them oriented, right? We're going to play this game. We're going to get back to work, and then as the off season starts, we feel really good about that. And then Ryan Staub has done a wonderful job. I think his one exposure was last year against Utah, where he did a great job. By all that was one of those games where we just didn't have enough time, right? Had we gotten back on the field, we might have had a chance to win it, but certainly Ryan played well, and he's done that through practice this year as well.
Yeah, Coach, you touched on this a little bit, but this BYU defense, one thing that really stands out is their secondary, kind of their ball hawkiness, I guess. I don't know if
Sure.
we'll call it one.
We'll work with that.
Yeah. What's sort of your perspective of those guys on the back end of the game?
Yeah, they do a good job. I mean, I think one of the hallmarks of a defense is getting turnovers, right? And so as a quarterback, you got to put the ball in the right spot. Typically if, they're tip balls or overthrows, then the guys in the back end, especially on the inside, the safeties have a chance to pick balls off. So we got to throw the ball accurately and catch it when it's thrown to us. I think that goes without saying. And then on the outside, the corners do a good job in, one-on-one situations of getting ball production. So that's one of the hallmarks of a good defense is getting the ball turned over. We're going to do everything in our power when we take the field to score points. And as Rob talked about on the flip side, the job of the defense is to make sure that doesn't happen. And one of the key ways to do it is to get the ball turned over. They do a good job of that.
Final questions to coach?
One of the guys that's going to be playing in his last college game is Jimmy Horn, and because of injuries, he hasn't maybe had the season that he was hoping to. It seems like guys have kind of put their arm around him. How have you seen him respond to maybe not having the season he has? And I know you can't force things as a coordinator, but is that a guy you'd like to get involved on Saturday?
Yeah, we love to get Jimmy involved, and when he was out there this year, we tried to, right? We fortunately have a lot of different targets, and Jimmy can make an impact. The thing about Jimmy is he's fast, and we've seen it. I mean, first series of the game against North Dakota State, right? So if he catches the ball in the back end, he can score touchdowns, and I think that's the beauty of him. And then as you get to know Jimmy, he's got a wonderful spirit. I mean, you got to love Jimmy Horn, and you just root for him to have success. And so it'd be a smart thing for us, but we'll try to get him the ball this week or this Saturday. And if he does what he can do with the ball, that'll be good for us, And so we'd like to send him out the right way. He had these little nagging injury things that kind of kept him kind of out of the smooth flow of things for us. So he's back healthy now, and hopefully we can get him going.
Sticking in the wide receiver room, Will Shepherd told us a couple weeks ago that LeJohntay has been a real leader in that room throughout the season. Just curious from your perspective, kind of how LeJohntay has impacted the rest of the wide receiver room, and just kind of how much you're looking forward to seeing him try to carve a role for himself in the NFL going forward.
Yeah, I think he's a pro. And guys ask me about it. There's a bunch of guys that I talk about as being pros. And we got 4 receivers, and we have a quarterback that comes to mind, right? And I think LeJohntay is one of those guys. The thing he does, and this could be a public service announcement for him, but he returns kicks. So I'm thinking about when you pick a guy and you're building a roster, he's a kick returner, right? He took 1 yard this year. He plays in the slot. He does the dirty work and he blocks. It's for the slot corner and the slot receiver. There's a lot more going on when you play in the slot. You're closer to the big guys. There's combinations of things that can happen. There's obviously less going on for the outside corner as well as the outside receiver. So on the inside, you got to block, which they do. He does a great job of. He makes tough catches. He shows up in critical times in the game. And he's a tough spirited guy that, I think we forget that. I think in his former school, he was a walk-on, right? That earned a scholarship. So I got a warm place in my heart for those kind of guys. And he's been productive. So just go back to what you're looking for in a pro, right? A guy that has the skill and ability, check, right? A guy that's produced, check, right? A guy that loves the game, check. And then a guy who understands the importance of being a good teammate, check. So in my mind, he's checked all the boxes. And just like the top two guys we're talking about, anybody that chooses to draft Tay wherever they do, I mean, they're getting a baller.
All right, one final question.
Hey, Coach, welcome to the Alamo Bowl.
Oh.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
This is your second year as coordinator with us.
First full, but yeah.
First full?
Yeah.
Okay. How does that compare to your stay with Herbert and your relationship? You mentioned chemistry between Travis and Shurmur. What's that chemistry like between yourself and Shurmur? And when did you think you kind of hit your groove there?
Yeah. So there's so many similarities to coordinating in the NFL. We can get to that as probably for another time. But with my relationship with Shador, it started last year. I was walking my daughter down the aisle a couple Julys ago, and Coach Prime called me and said, I'd like you to come out as an analyst and put some pro eyes on Shador and help him and whatnot. And then as time went on, my role changed quite a bit. So early on, we developed a really good relationship, and I think that's the key part of this business that people don't spend enough time on, right? You just can't start teaching these guys plays. You got to get to know them. They got to know you believe in them. I think that's what Rob does a great job with his staff and his players. And so that started for me a couple years ago. And then when I was put in control of the offense, it just happened faster, right? I believe in the young man. I listen to him. Even though I'm almost 60, I'm a grandfather now. 3 times. So I had let's see, December 2nd, December 8th, and December 12th. My 3 oldest children have babies. So I'm going to get the first flight out of here on Sunday to go meet 2 of them. I can't wait for that. But no, that relationship, right? So whether you're a grandfather or a coach of working with young people, that's where it starts. So then when we start talking about plays, it's easy, right? Like we had a play today, we were running in practice that I see very clearly. Well, for whatever reason, it's a really good play. Shador just doesn't quite see it the way I see it. So we're going to move on to something else. We got a lot of other plays, right? If he doesn't see it the way I see it and we can't get a completion and make it happen, we'll move on. And so I think that's one little example of how the relationship works. But this is a relationship business. And when coaches lose sight of that, which is easy to happen at times because of the grind of it and the scrutiny of it, when you lose sight of that, then I think you lose sight of the big picture, and it's not good.
Thank you, coaches. We'll bring players in a couple seconds.